Good morning, distinguished gentlemen and ladies. Pleasure.
Good morning. Pleasure.
Pleasure. Hi.
Nice again.
Pleasure.
Hello, Sharon Lambert.
Pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, have a seat, sir. All right. Pleasure receiving you.
Thank you.
And you're here to discuss the Windrush situation.
Yes, we are.
I'd say a very unfortunate situation which Caribbeans have been dislocated, disrespected after many decades of contribution in building the British economy, or rebuilding it for that matter.
Right.
And many of us in the Caribbean, we have relatives, who were part of that Windrush generation. In fact, in my case, I would have had two uncles, a great uncle and an uncle, who migrated to Britain.
Yes.
And would have worked here for many years. And again, they just weren't given the kind of recognition and to be placed in a situation in which they were totally disenfranchised and deported and so on. I think it was one of the most horrendous acts against our people, anywhere in the world, disrespectful of their contribution. But at least, there's some level of apology. I hope they're very serious about it. I'm not too sure exactly what's the situation now in terms of compensation. So maybe you need to bring me up to date. Where they are now with that issue with compensation.
Well, in terms of their projection, the Home Office, they've spent or released about 140 million, but they're only like 15% of the way.
Okay.
There are many people who are still trying to fathom how to complete the compensation forms. You would need a solicitor or barrister to kind of assist you with that, but the Home Office is very complex. 40 questions.
Maybe deliberately so.
Very much so. And even the King's Council, or used to be the Queen's Council, they have indicated that it is very difficult for people. The Home Office believe it is a form which is fair and equitable, but it does take time for people. And many people don't trust the Home Office. Many people don't want to relive the trauma going through the process of actually providing the documentary evidence, because it brings up so much trauma in how they were treated. And we as an organisation, we liaise, we have discussions with the Home Office, we've advised the Home Office on how the process should be. We have our engagement meetings with the public to kind of be the grassroots organisation that shows a face that they can have some comfort to move forward. And there's many organisations that we also represent, and part of us that we're Windrush Generations UK, Charles and myself, we're directors of there, and we started our journey celebrating, commemorating the Windrush generation, because that's the narrative we want to keep.
Right.
Because we don't want people to know our ancestors, our people, for the wrongs that's been treated by us. And contemporary, the Windrush scandal done by the government and the Home Office is an unfortunate narrative which we will not forget to tell people about and also promote the awareness. So we're here in the Caribbean visiting 9 sovereign nations to move forward, to pledge to yourselves and your peers around the Caribbean and CARICOM to actually work more closer with the Home Office. We contacted the Home Office. We work closely with them, but on this instance, they said that they'd done enough in the Caribbean. They'd spoken with their cabinet offices and everything to decide whether they wanted to assist us. We just asked for resources so we could actually promote and raise awareness on the ground to people who may be suffering. But we're asking your government and all the other Caribbean governments to raise the standard, and we're raising the standard. As Prime Minister, the flag is a standard. But we use the terminology of raising the standard for Windrush, and that's in all facets of how we can aspire and raise the aspirations and the legibility and the fairness for people who have suffered. But also, Prime Minister, the Honourable Prime Minister, is to acknowledge and honour and celebrate the contributions that your diaspora and the rest of the Caribbean diaspora has made throughout the UK, but not just the UK, but around the world. We have brought a flag that we're hoping, which has been done in Trinidad so far, Jamaica, Barbados,
and
St. Kitts and Nevis, and today we're in Antigua. We fly tomorrow and we're off to Dominica. But we're presenting the flag which we hope that you can, with your Senate and the rest of your Parliament, decide that you can raise this flag every year in honour of the journey that your countrymen had taken, took up the call from the British government after World War II to rebuild and restore. We call it putting the great back into Britain, and that must be celebrated and commemorated as well. We call it the 7 Cs, and the 7 Cs are the celebrations, the commemorations of the Windrush generation, the contributions of the Windrush generation, the care for the Windrush generation, the challenges and conflicts faced by the Windrush generation, but most of all, Your Honourable Prime Minister, the change we must want to see for the Windrush generation. So
you may have had another C, and now it's a conquest.
Conquest, wow. When we were in Barbados, and the foreign affairs and trade minister, he said there's another one, the 8th one. So you've got to say what he said, conscious. Yeah. We need the conscience of people, and you've given a good one as well. So that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, you can be assured of our continued support. In fact, when the story broke back in 2018, I did an interview with BBC and would have indicated our abhorrence about what would have happened to people who fought to rebuild Britain after it was destroyed during the Second World War. Yeah. And we too feel very proud about the contribution of the Caribbeaners in the diaspora, British diaspora, certainly North American diaspora. And we felt that it was an injustice that was done to them, that people who would have literally slaved, many of them would have done menial work for little pay, and then having to be dealt with in such a harsh way in which they were deported. We thought that that was really an act of malevolence that we just could not comprehend, and would have asked the British government to resolve that issue amicably, to include compensation. And I'm always of the view that whenever these atrocities are committed against our people, the issue of compensation arises, and we should not be shy about asking for compensation. Even at one point when the discussions were taking place about reparations, I noticed that within the region of people were dancing around the issue about asking for financial settlement. How could there be any sustaining solution without a financial settlement? Because at the end of the day, they would have left the region bereft of the institutions, the educational, healthcare institutions, the physical infrastructure to develop. And based on that, on the development and the fact that they would have benefited from the free labor and would have exported all of their profits to Europe and to North America to build out their socio-economic infrastructure, they then have an obligation and still have an obligation to help us to build capacity so that we can deal with those gaps that they left, so that all people too can achieve some level of resilient prosperity. So we should be, I would say, very assertive in pushing for the financial settlement. I don't know how they can come to the conclusion they have done enough. They have not started. So continue to keep the pressure on them. And the issue about raising the standard, interestingly, our national anthem speaks about raising the standard and to raise it boldly. To answer now to duty's call. So we do accept that we must raise the standard, and we have to continue to fight for justice, and again be assured of the full and continued support of the government and people of Antigua and Barbuda. And it will certainly be a pleasure to receive the flag. And you're suggesting that we raise it in Parliament.
What we consider it.
Consider doing it annually at a specific time.
So the 24th of May was actually when 1948 was actually when the first main ship sailed from the Caribbean carrying our people.
Right.
So we really wanted, and they arrived in England on the 21st of June and disembarked on the 22nd.
Right.
So the 22nd is the day that is
22nd of
recognised.
June.
22nd of
Celebrated.
June.
That is when you suggest we celebrate.
No.
We suggest that the 24th of May
Or
would
24th of
be
May when they left.
when they left, because
Okay.
they left, right?
Okay.
So, you know, so that would be the day that we...
Actually, I said I had two uncles. I had three. One is actually still alive.
Oh,
He's
okay.
in his 80s.
Okay.
His name is Jerome Anthony.
Yeah.
He lives in North London.
Okay.
And he worked at the post office in the UK for many years.
Mhm.
Retired post office. He actually drove the van there, post office
Yes,
van.
yeah.
So I'm sure that this is common to most Caribbean
Yes,
countries.
yes,
Right?
yes.
Some relatives
Yes.
who would have gone there during the early 50s,
Yes.
right up to. In fact, it was our great uncle who went there, probably maybe with that first voyage,
Yes.
and then he then sent for two of his nephews. And that is how our people obviously
That's how-
transitioned
yes,
and ended
yes.
up going to the UK.
Yeah.
So I can identify with these people. Again, as I said, I have relatives.
Yes.
None of them have had the situation of being deported and so on. But at the end of the day, I don't think that they have given the type of recognition for building
Yes.
that
Yes.
society,
Yes.
doing work that others didn't want to do.
Yes.
And interestingly, here in Antigua and Barbuda, we have a multicultural society. In fact, about 50% of our population comprises immigrants, especially from the Caribbean region.
Yeah, yeah.
And our institution, the Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party, has been very respectful and appreciative of the contribution of immigrants, especially Caribbean nationals.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it has been the subject of a political divide for many decades, in which our political opponents have seen it through very narrow lens.
Yes.
But we have looked at it from the standpoint that we all emanated out of Africa.
From region.
And,
Yes. Yes.
many of us do, we are resident in different domicile in different countries. I'm quite sure we have blood relatives in the various countries.
Yes.
So we're fundamentally one and the same.
Okay.
And we all came across the Middle Passage, some went north, some went south, some came Middle Caribbean. So you find that our policy, dating back to our late father of the nation, has been a very open one to embrace our Caribbeanness, our Africanness, so that even without any formal requirement or agreement for movement of people, we have allowed Caribbean nationals to come here and settle.
Yes.
And I guarantee you there are hardly many families in this country who do not have some form of Caribbean connection.
Yes.
But I'm saying this in the context that, just as how we appreciate the contributions of those who migrated here and helped to supplement the domestic labor to work with the locals and to build our economy, we have a similar expectation of Britain
Yes.
and other countries, the United States and so on, and they should also celebrate their contributions. I mean, they look at it through the lens of the fact that they may have provided them employment and maybe they may not have had any employment here in the Caribbean, but it doesn't matter.
Yes.
The reality is they took a conscious decision to migrate and to build the economy of others. And they could have actually stayed in the Caribbean and helped to build Caribbean economies because many of them were also skilled individuals, ambitious people, and we lost that talent to places like the UK. And for them now to disrespect them and to humiliate them, I think you have to continue to stand against that. And as has been concerned, they ought to pay. So press them for the payments.
Yes.
Well, we would like to present you
Sure.
this flag, and I will give you a meaning behind the flag because your last discussion that you just had just cemented everything that why this flag was designed. And the flag has a triangular shape, and the triangular shape indicates the journey of our people, not just from 1948, but well before, from the Africans
the triangle
to the
trade.
Americas,
Yes, that's right.
to Europe.
Yeah.
And it has a gold with the richness and of our people, but also red, meaning the sacrifices that our people have made during those centuries of journeys.
Blood,
and
sweat,
still
and tears.
continue. That's
Yes.
correct. That's
People.
correct. And the flag indicates that we are standing on the shoulders of the winners' generation,
Absolutely.
the contribution. So,
In fact, the remittances
Yeah.
have been very important in terms of sustaining Caribbean people. In fact, I'll give you a story here too.
Yes.
So, as a youngster, I grew up with my late great grandmother, who was born in 1894.
Yeah.
Partially blind, impoverished. And she had 2 children who were her daughter's in the Virgin Islands, and her son, his great uncle, who was in the UK. His name was Victor Watkins. So he was living in the UK. And the way she survived was whenever he would send maybe a 10 or 20 pounds. And so my own sustenance came from those remittances as a child. So you can see how, how linked we are, interlinked we are in terms of the benefits of those Windrush people who went to the UK and were sending back the remittances to the very Caribbean residents or the relatives, their parents and other relatives. So I have been the beneficiary of their labor.
And that's replicated across the Caribbean.
Yes, absolutely.
So we'd like to present you this flag to the people of Antigua and Barbuda, and we have a smaller version. Not just this is the biggest one. So we'll hold this flag up and stretch it out. And the flag mentioned. It is a slightly different flag. The flag that we have in the UK has a white background, but the image is still the same. And this flag is raised in the Houses of Parliament. Even the Home Office, the ones who've done the wrongs, they've raised the flag. It reminds us of hope, a hope to our people that we can restore, of restorative justice, and also talking about the longevity of having equality and equity as well. So this is the Windrush Caribbean flag, and we'd like to present this to you.
Pleasure. Thank you. Cheers. Okay.
We have a tie for yourself.
Okay.
And some time
This is Windrush.
Windrush 75. It's a 75th anniversary. We felt that we had to do something special in order to raise the standard and raise awareness. And there's some pin badges for yourself and some of your ministers. And if you'd like to give this to your fellow countrymen in Barbuda, that'd be brilliant, yeah? So thank you very much
Barbuda
for giving us.
And you may want to distribute these to my colleagues. I'll take one.
Can I have a picture presenting one to you on your lapel?
Oh, sure.
Okay. You want to do the other stuff?
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll be at this side,
Yes.
and then I'll give one more picture. That's it.
Good.
Right, can I get your eyes over here now?
Okay. Cheers. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Good. Cheers. Blessings. Good.
Thank you, boss.